and welcome to card altering, kind of a 101 basic overview, whatever you want to call it. We're here talking about how to take a basic card, in this case MTG, Magic the Gathering, and perform a series of processes to it, allowing you to apply acrylic paint to the surface, creating a new look for the card. In this case, we're going to be working on a land today. This one. This forest. We're going to do a border extension and really not change much of the original artwork. Credit goes to Themghtyquinn, 2012 Wizards WotC. We're going to take that card and maybe make it look a little bit more like this. Hey, look at that. All right, stay tuned if you want to see how. Okay, so the first step of this is going to be, we're going to select a card. For this demonstration, we're going to use, so we're going to use this forest card here as an example today. Show you how to process, prep, and paint. Big on alliteration, so I end up using a lot of P's when I do all this sort of stuff. So what we're going to do first is process on this cardboard here. You can sort of see some of this gray dust. Let's focus in on that. You can kind of see under some of this gray dust here. Interesting. I wonder if that's the LED. You can sort of see, maybe. Anyway, we're going to take our sandpaper. We're going to take out all the space we don't want to, we want to paint. So we want to paint. So we're going to come a little bit in on the sides here so we can blend more effectively. We're going to go around the bottom. We're going to extend that border all the way down. We're going to continue detail as best we can. And then above where it says forest, we're going to go real firm around all these edges. Make sure we have nice, crisp, clean lines. We're going to want to see the whole guild symbol and this sort of pale green box. I think it looks pretty good when you get it all done. So all we got to do for this part is get a piece of sandpaper. This is, I think it's, see, P400. I think it does pretty fine. I had a bunch of this left over from a car project, so it's pretty easy just to have lying around when I got started. So, like I said, we're going to kind of dig in right along the outside edge. Very light. You want to see some of that white, take some of that ink off of the card, but not too much. We don't want to affect the overall thickness of the card. So what we're doing is working our way around the edge. Said before, just be careful around these curved parts too. You want to preserve the natural line best you can. A couple of tricks later on, we can talk about that. But in terms of getting the sanding down, really it's just patience and perseverance, I guess. Sorry, artists. I always feel a little bad about brushing over the original artist. So we're going to have a bit of a, I'll show you this up close. So first things first, we got to decide where to start and how we're going to accomplish our goals here today. And our goal is pretty much, let me take a closer look at the card here with me. Our goal is pretty much just to extend this border to the outsides. This is looking so great. That looks better. Okay. So we're obviously going to need some white. We're going to need burnt sienna. You're gonna need yellow. Gonna need a little yellow. See a bunch of blue in there. This blue's really strong though, so I'll need a little bit. definitely need some green. And it's gonna be a little trick here. We're gonna take some orange. Definitely get some of this red. I don't love mixing paints like this, but I end up doing it about half the time. Mostly because I can't usually get such a clean portion. Like some of this dark brown. It's burnt umber, as they call it in the business. I think we'll be okay. I'll get some black too. I'll go up here by the white. So when it comes to mixing these colors, what I like doing is really getting in there and seeing what the detail does. And thinking about light sources. Now light sources become more important when we're doing sky and actually like this sun area here. Get a better pointing tool. So we're working through here. We're going to need a lot lighter tones than say down through here. So here we're going to probably extend this dome. We're going to extend some of this like city buildings, red roof houses. Very pretty. Down here looks like some kind of valley, so we're probably going to cut through and extend that maybe down through here. And then again maybe through here. Let's try and create some depth if we can. And then probably foreshorten anyway. This foreground here a little bit. Just make the illusion of something kind of closer to the viewer, and we're going to push back as best we can up here as well towards that background. So first things first, I'm going to get a base layer down. I'm going to go kind of dark for this bottom. Take some of this brown, some of this green, red. I'm just going to go gently into the outside. Now I do a lot of what you just saw, where I'll take my finger and actually use it to pull some paint off of the card in the direction that I want. This serves two purposes. Primarily, we're not letting the paint get too heavy, which would jeopardize our tournament legality, which is part of the whole thing. Our best market is with players who care about quality craftsmanship, as well as often spend to play with others, which would logically lead me to the conclusion of they probably play tournaments. So we got to make sure our cards are good to go. Even the lands, even all the simple stuff. So I kind of like this purpley brown green color for this low highlight. We're going to darken it up a little bit more. Go right into that dark brown back through. This is going to help fool the viewer into thinking there's more detail. Any of that hard work like going through and actually putting detail in. Because who has time for that? We're going to use impressionist tricks to create something special. So wherever I've got dark areas, I'm going to continue this up and down the sides. Maybe pull just a tiny bit of black in here because it's so dark. What I like about the forests is they always give me a chance to paint green. I love painting green. Not sure why. Probably because I'm a nature person in real life. not just in my painting life. So, still going back through, picking out areas that should be a little darker. Like in here, we're going to do our first little bit of color blending. Now, there's no way to hide it on camera. This stuff is going to have a little bit of more reflective quality than the card itself. You can really see that right here. Or even though I'm getting in the flat view very black blacks, in the camera you're able to pick up some of that light bounce off that card. So all we're going to do is continue to blend best we can, pull a little bit more red into what we're doing since we're working on that dome. This is a basic land forest from Hour of Devastation, looks like. So I'll give a shout out to the original artist in the description, as well as probably pop up right now. Darken that in. Now you can decide about these green outlines, up to you. If you want to hide them, you got a steady brush hand, it's not that hard. If you want to leave them in, the top's going to be left in anyway, so it's going to have company. Yeah, focus on what I'm doing over here a little bit more. What I did just now is I put a little bit of water on the brush. We're going to go through and we're going to kind of block out where that valley is. So I know I want darker colors there. I know I'm going to have it probably a darker up to here. Based on that perspective, it looks like it's kind of curved. See how we're looking here. Expecting it to come down and then through here, whereas this side is going to be much more almost linear. And this is the trick, you layer in first and you just detail, 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 detail. So we're going to leave as much as we have of the sky portion from here, sort of this corner to about there, very light in our sort of underlayer. We want to work in a lot of these blue tones. You can sort of see through the sky here, as well as a lot of these pale gold we have through here, which are really pretty. So we're going to let this sort of base layer dry and work a little bit more on the top. So I'll grab a fresh brush. I'm going to pull a little bit of white. So we're going to have that here, a tiny bit of this blue. Yeah, there we go. Just a tiny bit of this green. Really got to be careful with these colors because they'll just go out of control. Remember again though, this is just an underlayer. We'll pull a little bit of, I got these same pots of color you saw before, where I've got some intermediary tones already mixed up. So working in a darker blue from here, you can see how pretty that is. It's going to get us a lot closer right away in a base layer to these tones in the sky. Now, when you get the paint where you don't want it, you got to move it with your hand right away, or a small towel. I prefer the hand because it's right there. Coming together already. So if we're filling in the blue out here, it's creating that, I said, that illusion of depth. We want to leave some of that available, some of that pushed up through the sky there, kind of dabbing as we go, just creating the illusion of more detail. Simple brush strokes, very simple. Even if this is a little dark, that's still okay. Come through with a little bit of white. Later on, we can lighten up whatever we like. It's acrylic paint, we can always cover, right? So that's pretty good. It's a decent color match already for that blue sky color, and that's going to be the hardest part about this, is really nailing that color match. The seamless transition from the original artwork to your work is going to be the first and I think last sign of a really professional piece, where if you're doing a good job, you should look 2 or 3 times to see where your stuff ends and theirs begins. Or the original begins, anyway. But people go, well, especially with tokens. Tokens, you can really create quite an illusion with the prep process, removing a lot of that detail, and then if you nail your color transitions, it looks like the whole thing opens up. It's really quite great if you're a big detail person. Now, in terms of like what we're just talking about there, detail, we're going to have some things coming up over top of this area here, extending from this area. We might even see a little bit of that tree over top of here. If we were really keen, we could actually take that tree and put it in front of this text box, which I might actually do. It would really increase your foreground background effect. But for now, I'm going to finish layering in the sky. It's just little bits here and there, dragged away, kind of patted in. That's going to create this sort of patchiness that the original artist has as well, which is exactly what we're kind of going for. And that extension of the border. So we come back through, and just tapping the brush helps us create that texture in the sky really easily. Helps us understand how this connects, not just that it connects. If you're feeling the paint get a little thick in any area, go ahead and use a little water. It's also a great way to add a little visible texture to the card. And we don't want to go too crazy with this, but it is a decent way of doing it. Especially when we need to consider later on the highlights. Highlights are very, very, very important for that realistic look. Okay, top layer and bottom base layers now are pretty much done. Plenty of work left to do, but got a great start. Actually, what I want to do is work a little bit of this blue into this bottom layer here, because we know we're going to have a little bit of that color involved down here when we start doing the detail. And it looks like this wants to open up a little bit more than I initially expected. So you can kind of see where I'm thinking as well for that bottom area. All right, so when we come back, we're going to take a look at how to begin developing that detail connecting the original piece to what we're doing on the outside edges. All right. Okay. So now all we have to do is start working through some areas we were working on before. We're going to create a little bit more a mid-ground with some gray tones through here and in the sky. Make sure we're actually going to start that already, because we want to sort of, like I said, depth is really the illusion we're going for. So to get this tone, I'm going to take some purple I've got mixed up, and then some black with a little bit of that blue from before. We'll get some nice dark tones to work with. You guys can see. We don't want to take our detail work too seriously at this point. It's definitely important to, you know, work smart, not slap on too much paint right away. That could be a disaster. Now, so we're missing a little brown there. Let's take some brown, mix it in there too. That's gonna be a little closer to what we're working on. There we go. And so that's a lot of this. You'll need to see the tones next to each other before you can sort of make that call a lot of the time. What is going to look right next to the original. So I think we're going to add like a third kind of trunk here on top of this platform, which means we got to widen the platform a little bit to this right side, which means we can kind of cheat these mountains. I suppose they're sort of whatever, a little bit more to the outside. I think it was the beginning of a building before, but we don't need to worry about that. What it was. What about what it is? Then we're going to look for anywhere else that needs similar coloration. Now there's a lot of grays in this valley area, so we're going to leave some of that gray down here. Go a little wide with it because we can always overpaint with some of those dark tones again without any real issue. Mind having a little bit of lightness on the outside of these, but I do want to have a little where it's supposed to be closer to the viewer or away from the light. I do want to have some indication of that. So mixing a little bit of black, say like drawing a line on the back of a tree or through some of this rubble here. Helps the viewer understand what's closer and what's further away. especially considering how deep the center of this frame is. It goes back a long ways. Sometimes you get these spots, and it can be fixed with more sanding, but where we have a lot of the original cards poking through still, just take our time, let it dry, go in layers. It's very important to just think about the layers involved here, keeping it as thin paint application as possible. Really playing with fire there when I'm doing that. Okay, so we're going to pull a little bit more this side, just to darken it up a bit before I go through and work on the detail. I mostly just like the matte finish that the card seems to take on when I pull that paint like that. I've got a lot of purple on the brush right. I need a little bit more green to really need more yellow too. That's better. The best thing about this is the areas you don't sand are really easy to clean off. If you get to it right away, you can just pull that paint with your finger. It comes right off of there. So there's a lot of foliage on these houses. We're going to build in a lot of that too. Sort of dabbing our brush here, and then tapping briefly. I'll need to build in a lot more detail, but having this foliage cover, especially extending onto some of the houses, even where maybe not wasn't before, it's a pretty good cover for at least for my style. So I do like having a little bit of paint go onto the actual card, because then I'm able to, you can sort of see me putting a little bit more green on the right side there as well. It allows me to really just hide my lines more effectively. So I imagine there's going to be some grass on these rocks as well. There's definitely some grassy features down in these valleys here. They're further down, so they're going to be darker than that even. Same with this side, we're going to darken it through with some of this green. I anticipate that won't be a bad choice, even if it's not quite as dark as we want it yet. See up here near the sky, maybe just pull a little bit of green over. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So now all we got to do is pull some red shapes through that green section, and it really is going to pop a lot more. Still want to go through with a little bit of yellow while I've got a darker color on the brush, and try my best just to highlight down once in that tree trunk. That's not bad. Incorporating more, I don't need more dark brown black, it looks like, of a realistic color for this tree is going to be the deciding factor, in my opinion, of whether this is a decent quality altar or not. Because it's really, it stands out. So we gotta make it look good. So I'm getting a little bit of yellow detail around the base of it because the other trees have it as well. And once again, it's just more things that are going to help me effectively hide the transition lines between my work and the card. Oh, I'll wash the brush. Normally I'll have a napkin ready or a shop towel. So take some of this red. Oh, there. Next, we'll take a little bit of this red, a little bit of this lighter brown, this darker brown. We're gonna just try and some real subtle outlines. And a little bit of that orange color just fading through the shape of where this might extend to. Just as if it might not even be there, you know. I think roofs are pretty easy, especially if you are painting in this kind of scale, where all you really got to do is this real simple stroke, and then go back in and then fill in the other angles for, say, sun exposure. So we'll do some big ones, some small ones, really just trying to add to the mystery of the city, like what could be here, you know. Just be really patient as we work through this. You can sort of see a little bit more of that form begin to take shape. So going in again with a little bit more black detail on this right side in order to show the foreground compared to where it goes to. Now at this side, I'm tempted to leave off a lot of detail in this bottom right corner. Cluttering it too much is going to lead to taking away from the card. So all we really want to do as we get down here is kind of just work on our lines and figure out where exactly the bottom of this right cliff is going to be, and at the same time darken up the right corner without loading up the card too much. And that's going to help us create the idea that a cliff is sort of intersecting here. Now, we still haven't talked more about the tops of those trees, but we're not going to yet. I think that's going to be a fun thing to tackle a little later. Right side of the card's looking good, though. Gotta say, making progress. Pancakes. All right. So now I think we should add kind of more green highlights as we sort of see fit for leaves, I suppose. Work a little bit more on creating a little bit more depth in this bottom area here, and also up here. And we'll see you after the break. Okay, so we're back and we're working on this bottom area here, the valley. Now, in my opinion, couple different ways we can go about this. It looks like there's a lot of fog down there. So what we're going to have to do is sort of do a good job of keeping those lighter tones also going pretty dark, because it looks like this is the furthest point away from the sun, especially if we consider how thick this canopy might be. But we want a clear differentiation from the side wall here. Really make that evident. What's going on here? Go with some cream color for that. Now, these cliffs are a little red as well, so we're going to try and work a little bit more red into there. I don't know if it's a trick of the houses or if it's truly a case for the cliffs. Red. Again, using black to foreshorten, essentially, bringing this closer to the foreground. When you see me doing that, I'm using my thumbnail to scrape away a tiny bit of paint. Seems to be an easy way to just sort of take care of the problem before it becomes a problem. Like this area down here, I think a thumbnail or a fingernail. See? Just takes paint away. Now I'm going to cut in here with black along the side, where I would say that the houses are not facing sunlight. We're going to pull that line almost all the way up, those cut-ins. We're going to go through there again with a lighter cream color, but I do want to darken up some of this as well so it looks more agreeable as we get out there. Gonna have to go in. I guess I'm just gonna make those sky, this portion here and this portion here, which have that dark tone still. I'm gonna lighten those up, but that's gonna be a little trickier than it would otherwise have been. So we're gonna wash the brush off again. Pull some cream color I've got mixed here. Spread that out a little bit. Get a little yellow. Just get a little bit of that brown too, actually. Okay, that's not bad. So yeah, then we just have to go in, pretend to be like a little architect, try to put some houses together. So we're a little light here on the color match. It's not quite what I was hoping. It's also way into the foreground. I'm gonna push that back with more yellow and more gray. That's better. Using an oversized brush for this, let's not do that. decided to just go ahead and push cream through the whole area. So we can just go ahead and layer back on top. I wish I would have thought of it first. But it will be a little easier than going back in and cutting in cream wherever it needs to be cut in. While we have the cream on our brush, we're going to do a little bit to the sky. Oh, you don't want that white there. Not the white there. And this is really just an effort to lighten up a little bit before we do those trees in the foreground. And just add some more of that lightness we were talking about before. That sun exposure breaking through those dreary looking skies there. It's coming together. See, before in the early days, I probably would have panicked doing something like that. But no, it's really easy. Just get to it right away. Use your nails. Be professional. Because other tricks like isopropyl alcohol do work, but they're very limited. You can only do it once or twice, if that, on one card before you run into issues with what it does to the inks underneath. This is part of the challenge of doing these, especially doing them blind. Sort of picking and going. Every artist's got a different art style. Every artist in the whole world does clouds differently. You got to kind of adapt, given what you're working on. This one, it's so soft. Like there's barely any brush strokes at all. Imagine that's quite the challenge. It's just got a tiny bit of purple in there, which makes it, again, kind of tricky to match. We'll get there. It's part of the fun. Notice that one. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So we laid that cream in the right side or the left side there. We were able to sort of make a little bit more sense of the difference between the buildings and the sort of these platforms they're sitting on. What we'll do after this is we're going to cut more red back in for the roofs. And then just keep keep pulling colors where we need them. Kind of adapting what we need. Or black up here. So we're really actually going to make some sense of this. Okay. Like I said, we're going to pull a little bit more of that red, orange, kind of brown combination we had from earlier. Wherever we see it, we just kind of want to extend it where it makes logical sense. Not always going to make perfect sense either. That's okay. But we want to just imagine that there's, an actual roof there. Kind of see where the roofs are going to be right above the darkest areas potentially. They're going to be preventing some of that light from coming through. You don't want too many though. Too many is going to look ridiculous. So we need a lot more detail on this left side, right? One of my favorite little tricks is take a ballpoint pen or like a mechanical pencil like this, go through and you can just sort of dot really tiny, almost imperceptible little points. Kind of dab once or twice, help with the visibility, use short lines. It makes it a little easier to sort of just envision where you want some of this detail. But again, generally we don't want to, we're not striving to match the level of detail on display. We're really just trying to help the plan is now I'm going to work more green into this right side. I've got some greens here that are complementary and going to go really well with what's already in here. So it's funny. What I want to do first is sort of fill in and see how this is going to look without over sort of lapping that top bar here. And then I want to see what this looks like with that area filled in. If it looks any good, we'll keep it. Seem to mix in a lot of black into the green, especially when it's in the foreground like this. I want to make it seem like the shadows have built up the whole way through all those branches and leaves, which means we got to make this pretty dark. The key there is going to be going back in a second, brightening it up with a different color green. Sort of brush away best we can this plant detail. And what I think I'm going to do is sort of assume that this top of this building leads right into true forest area. So we're going to continue these branches up and to the right, pretty much out of frame. Of the card. And that does make it easier, true. Not by much. My little napkin. See, it's the same thing pretty much as what we're doing with our fingers. Except I get my own marks on my hands. Okay. Same as always, we're going to come in through here. Green, and we're going to pat that on there. Just create that uneven kind of illusion of light sort of passing through branches. It's real easy. Just gotta have fun with it. That's pretty good. Very nice. It actually looks like it's coming through those branches. We'll go back and we'll trace a little bit of this green back through here. So I want a little bit more of that potentially grassy looking side to this black here. It's going to soften it up a little bit. Help the viewer know that it's a purposeful decision. You know, what this is all looking like. This is all forest behind all there, if we got to assume that, right? This whole place covered in what looks like trees. We will run green pretty much through all those dark areas down there. Do a similar thing over here. Boy howdy. Looks like we're getting pretty close. Good, see my bedtime's coming up. Okay, we'll do an up close review right now. See what still needs work, see what does not. And I'll report back. Alright, so that's a better look at what we're doing. The right side's really turning out. That left side's coming in. I like the amount of detail we got there. The sky could use a little cleaning up. But everything else looks to be in pretty good order. I might throw a little bit more greenish blue in that bottom trench area. But yeah, not bad so far. So all we really got to do, as you kind of saw from that preview, I want to work a little bit in here. Make sure we're solid. A little bit up here. Kind of fill a little bit through here and then down here in the bottom as well. We'll actually do that first. Looks like I'm missing some bluish black detail. And let's see, tops of trees, stuff like that. Here with a little bit of green pulled through there. Yeah, there we go, that's perfect. That's nice, perfect. All right, so we will go back through a little red to that. Pull some red through here. Just to create that illusion. There's something else going on. Orange too, actually. So a lot of these types of things kind of require me to get pretty close to the piece. My head's just barely out of frame. You can see my shadow. But it requires you to get really close, because a lot of this detail work, you wouldn't just be able to see it otherwise. So I'm going through, I'm actually taking some highlights out where I had them before, so the houses make more sense. Then we're going to gently cover that up. Okay. So there's a lot I'm really liking here. Really happy with a lot of this so far. Really just want to lighten up that sky a tiny bit more, figure out what this top left corner is going to be like, and be pretty much home free. A little bit more of a dark color to this bottom area. There we go, that's good. You get to the treble too, you always want to pick. Never finished anything. So at some point, you just got to be like, hey, this is done. I got to walk away. We're not there yet. We're barely getting started. No, we're almost done. So like I said before, a little bit of white, a little bit of this blue, just the tiniest amount, and some this darker blue. Over there. I like that transition now. It's not gonna get much better than that. We're so close to being done here. And I'll pull you in again. I kind of like the purple on the left side corner. In terms of overall look, what do you guys think? We made it through. We are out the other side of this first episode, talking about the basics of card altering. Sorry, I'm just throwing this into a perfect fit. So we've got the brand new forest compared to the old forest. I'll be able to sort of show you the difference. Hopefully a little up close sort of montage shot is happening now. So you can sort of see what we did there, and I think it turned out excellently. I really like how I really like everything about this card. So if you want to buy this card, go ahead and hit up the links below. Otherwise, join the Patreon. You get a chance at a raffle win once a month. And that's the other way you can sort of go about it. Patreon supports all my endeavors, the video series I'm working on, the artwork stuff, hopefully hosting a show here in Chicago pretty soon. Hopefully first half of this year, I'm thinking. Get back on my feet a little bit and then get back out there. But yeah, I'll make sure to have everything ready to go down below. But if you like what you saw, if you like the long form content, if you like hearing my voice or just turning it on before you go to bed, having someone to listen to, it's something I do all the time too. I'm super guilty of it. Just keep on keeping on, keep on coming back. And if something I can do better, let me know. Something you like that I'm doing, let me know that too. Otherwise, I'll see you soon.